Now, conservatives love to talk about paid protesters. On the left, creating movements funded by whatever George Soros or whatever shady left-wing billionaire you want to point out. The Parkland survivors are a great example. Oh, these people, they're just paid, right? Shooting never happened. They're just here to take our guns. They're an AstroTurf movement. They're being funded by Soros and all these left-wing groups. They're not real. Fake news, right? Now, I always thought that was pretty curious, right? Like, no, why would you call them fake actors, paid actors? That's insane. There's actually zero evidence that any of these movements are backed by big money, and that these protesters are just paid. They're fake, right? Now, we find out that there's a little bit of evidence that charge is nothing more than projection from Republicans, from conservatives. Well, what evidence do I have? Well, turns out that there was a company that had hired protesters in order to support a controversial power plant. Now, journalists at The Lens, a New Orleans news outlet, had investigated a group of orange shirt-wearing individuals who attended a city council meeting about a slated power plant project. Now, this group happened to be pro-power plant. Oh, we're in favor of the power plant. And we're going to come out as protesters and sit in these city council meetings in order to protest in favor of the plant and drown out anybody who is opposed to that plant. Now, according to the nonprofit website, many of the people who attended those meetings in support of the plant project by the Entergy Corporation were hired by the Los Angeles-based company Crowds on Demand. Oh, well, that's interesting. There's no ambiguity in that name. Crowds on Demand is exactly what it sounds like. Need a crowd? Well, you can hire them on demand. They'll come to your whatever protest or party, which would be really, really sad. But anyway, according to Michael Isaac Stein, who writes, based on interviews with actors and screenshots provided to the nonprofit outlet, that at least 4 of the people in orange shirts were indeed professional actors. One actor said he recognized 10 to 15 others who worked in the local film industry. They were paid $60 each time they wore the orange shirts to meetings in October and February. Some got $200 for a speaking role, which required them to deliver a pre-written speech. Keith Kiao, one of the people hired by Crowds on Demand for the Entergy meetings, told The Lens that he was paid every time someone said something against wind and solar power. So that shows you where they are on the ideological spectrum. Now, The Lens also acquired what it believes is Crowds on Demand's non-disclosure agreement for actors that repeatedly tells them to tell nobody that you're being paid. Well, that, of course, makes sense. If you're being paid as a protester, then it would make sense that you don't tell people, oh, no, don't worry about it, I'm being paid for this. Crazy. Now, along with The Lens's investigation, other New Orleans-based groups and individuals, including Michael Brown, an attorney for the city's Sierra Club chapter, decided to look into the background of some of these protesters holding signs in favor of this plant. Now, what's funny is that part of their tactic was to show up in such large numbers to where nobody else can get into those meetings. Nobody can get into those chambers because it's filled with people wearing orange shirts. Now, all these other outlets that looked into this came to the same conclusion. There was something a little fucked up about this. That seems a little odd that there's so many people now organizing in favor of a power plant and speaking out against wind and solar. Now, when asked about the actors, Entergy initially denied that they hired them and then blamed the Hawthorne Group, a public relations firm that it had hired. Oh, it was those guys. Oh, we hired the Hawthorne Group, and the Hawthorne Group decided to go and buy Crowds on Demand. I had no idea that that's what they were going to do. However, an internal document revealed that Hawthorne appeared to instruct Entergy to deny the allegations and called one paid demonstrator that went on the record, quote, delusional or lying. I love everything about this story. It's fantastic. From the paid power plant protesters, say that 5 times fast, to a corporation willing to hire a company called Crowds on Demand. Like, you don't think that people would find that out? I also think that that's great that there's a company that actually has that name. You know what they're about. You could hire them for your inauguration. Maybe Donald Trump actually did. Who knows, right? And just the fact that there's such an obvious AstroTurf job. Everybody looked into it and was like, yeah, no, we know what that's about. They were easily able to figure that out. And finally, I love the irony, right? The irony that these conservative groups, or look, even, for example, corporations like Entergy, right? That would go out of their way and likely claim if there were a left-wing protest, for example, for solar energy and against that specific power plant. Oh, you're just paying protesters. You're being paid by George Soros and or any of these left-wing environmentalist groups to go and protest. Well, they're the ones that are hiring their own protesters. The energy companies are. Hilarious, right? Look, in reality, most right-wing protests, not all of them, of course, but a lot of them usually have some sort of billionaire behind the scenes that is backing them, or some think tank or some foundation that is funded by shady billionaires. And they're usually behind the whole thing, pulling the strings. So it is kind of hilarious that they have that projection. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.